Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cavell Cloud Conversations podcast. I am missing my usual partner in crime this week because Finbar Begley is absent, and I've replaced him with Trent Webby, Cavell's head of APAC. How you doing, Trent?
G'day Patrick, going pretty well down here, mate.
Excellent. Yeah, Finbar's no doubt at some sort of lavish customer experience event, skiving off the podcast. I don't think that's true. I think he's doing something important. But we wanted to bring you on specially as head of APAC because we have Cavell Summit APAC happening in Sydney pretty shortly. So I wanted to pick your brains on that. And I think the most important development about the event this year is that yours truly, Patrick Watson, has made the team list to travel down under. So it'll be my first time down under. So Trent, if you could give us a sort of overview of the APAC event. We ran it last year. It was sort of oversubscribed and it's expanded this year. So I just wanted to understand what the sort of key ethos of the event is.
Yeah, look, it's a really good event for anybody who's wanting to know the industry trends that are happening specifically to this region, Asia Pacific. We've been doing a lot of research within the Australian enterprise area, which we did last year, and we're going to be revisiting that with a keynote again this year. We've also further expanded our research into other APAC spotlight markets, such as Japan, Thailand, Singapore and some other regions, and just finding out kind of what the nuances are and kind of what the landscape looks like down here. So we'll be providing a lot of those points as well through some other keynotes. So really it's a good event for anybody who's wanting to enter this market or are already within this kind of APAC space and want to know how they can branch out with with whatever the latest trends are and what we could be looking forward to in the next 4 to 5 years. Yeah, so a lot of really good insights for anybody essentially. So you could be a local player here or you could be an international player wanting to move into these sort of markets as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what we've tried to do. Obviously, the Cavell renowned for the North American Summit that we run and the Summit EU that we run in Europe, which is coming up in London in March. But the APAC Summit it's such an interesting area, and you and I have been doing research calls with key communication providers in the space, and it's a really interesting juxtaposition because Australia, really advanced cloud market, really at the forefront of everything cloud, big Microsoft Teams market, growth market for Zoom and RingCentral and WebEx and lots of the sort of cutting edge cloud UCaaS providers, also a really interesting contact center market. But we've also spoken to providers about the sort of Southeast Asian regions as well. And it's really fascinating as someone who comes from the sort of background of Europe, where it's actually quite challenging to do business because even in the EU single market, there's regulations across borders, there's language. Actually, the more research that we've done on the Southeast Asian markets, there seem a lot of parallels there. You know, these are very individual countries. And one of the things, Trent, we've heard a lot is that culture's a big thing to do business in those different markets.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you look at some of our other events that we do, North America, all very similar in terms of the demographics and the field that you have there. Same with Western Europe. It's completely opposite in the sense of where we come into APAC. You actually aren't looking at one unanimous market. You're actually looking at a segmented kind of market. So every single different market that you have down here have the different nuances. And like you mentioned, there's a lot of different things to do with language barriers, cultural barriers, geopolitical activity. There's a lot of these certain areas and they affect maybe one or two, but not all of the different markets here. So to come into this space with a, one single purpose product is kind of not the right way to go. You've got to be able to curate your product and your package to, especially the pricing as well. We talked a lot about the pricing actually in a bit of our research as well. So there's a lot of different elements that are actually moving around in this space. So it is quite interesting to understand. And we're going to have a few providers that are going to be coming in from some of these regions as well. We're going to hear a few from some that are based in the Philippines, Japan, and some other areas further afield. So it'll be actually good to hear some on the ground kind of experience of what they've dealt with their operations in these markets, and it'll really help those guys who want to get into the other markets. Now, one thing you actually mentioned there about being in Australia actually was really valid. A lot of organizations, use obviously Australia and New Zealand as a springboard because of that English language kind of area to get into the APAC market. It's not a really bouncy springboard, it is great to get into these markets. They do follow very similar trends to what we see in the US, the UK and elsewhere, but these other areas, it doesn't really work that way. So it's going to be quite interesting. Those who don't know too much about some of these other regions will come along and they'll learn a lot of new findings definitely at this event. Yeah,
you make a really good point about thinking of Australia or New Zealand as a springboard, whereas actually Southeast Asia, we talked about the language barriers. Most of the providers that we talk to that do business in these regions, they have to employ local teams on the ground because there's a cultural aspect that you have to know, there's a go-to-market aspect that you have to understand. It's completely different in Indonesia compared to the Philippines. The other thing that amazed me, Trent, is just the potential size of some of these markets. So Indonesia, absolutely massive. The Philippines, a massive contact center outsource market. So yeah, it would be really interesting. And we'll share some of our research as well and some of the findings from that. I wanted to talk a little bit about the event in more detail. So you and the Cavell team have done a great job. First of all, a great list of sponsors. You've got Microsoft as gold sponsors, Switch Connect, Zoom, Access4, Comms Group. Silver sponsors, you've got Gamma, who are expanding into the region, Tollring, New Wave, and bronze sponsors, Yaystar on the device side as well. Can you talk to me a little bit about the agenda and what we've got planned? Any particular highlights that you're looking forward to?
Apart from our double act that we're going to be doing on the APAC Spotlight, Patrick, which I'm excited to rehearse that little piece. But we've actually got a whole heap of really good information. So we will be revisiting our CX panel again that we brought in, which was a regional versus global kind of insights around what the CX space looks like. That's going to be quite an interesting panel. And we've got our three panelists confirmed on that to be from IPscape, Access4, who's obviously one of our gold sponsors, and Townix coming in onto that as well, which would be really cool. We've got our collaboration, so we've actually expanded that beyond the Operator Connect, and we've brought on partners from Zoom, Ring Central. We've even got our Philippines provider coming in from ULAP, and then we've got some other really new kind of interesting spaces. We're doing a provider viewpoint, which is actually going to be, I think, quite a fun one. It's got an American, it's got a British person, and it's got an Australian. It's probably the start of a bad joke, but that'll be quite an interesting little panel at the end of the session too, along with a whole heap of other really awesome insights. We're going to be doing a commercializing AI keynote from Cavell ourselves, and obviously the famous one is obviously the state of the market, sort of looking at the empowering the intelligent workplace. Matt Townend coming down again with a whole heap of new insights about what's happening globally. So I mean, you will not be short of great information at this event, that's for sure. Yeah, big list of content. Yeah,
we've absolutely. I think the thing that I'll be particularly interested is that as well as you said, the Cavell research that we'll be sharing, but that provider viewpoint, hearing directly from providers in the market, that's the most valuable piece to me, is hearing about local providers, how they go to market, what are the challenges, what are the particular nuances of the region. I think that'll be particularly interesting. And then just so we've got full packed day of agenda. There are still some tickets available as well, Trent, if people are in APAC, or you're listening to this and you've got teams in APAC. So in terms of the event itself, so we're in, and Trent, you'll have to forget, I may have worn the Australian green specifically for this call, but this has been my first time down under. So we're in Sydney, we're on the 24th of February. Anything else if people want to book tickets that they should be looking for?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, those who've come before will know where the old location is. We're actually at the Australian National Maritime Museum this time, so it's actually going to be quite an interesting little space. It was actually a hot pick of Matt Town, and anyone who knows Matt knows he loves sailing, so there was a little bit of bias with that particular venue, but it's in Darling Harbour. It's a little bit more accessible. We had feedback last year from the event that the old venue was a little bit trickier to get to, so hopefully this one will meet everyone's requirements there. But look, there's going to be a good little bit of exhibition space with all of our sponsors there, a few of the new guys coming into the area like Yaystar, who are really excited to be down in this market, Gamma as well, who are obviously using the event as, coming back to that word, of springboard of their actual opportunity to break into the APAC space and just meet a whole heap of new partners. So if you're looking to expand your channel, this is a really good event. The networking is phenomenal. We have many opportunities as well throughout the day to engage in that networking opportunities through the exhibition space, through the post-event drinks, which actually one of the other feedbacks was that we ran out of beers last year. This year we'll make sure we've got enough for everybody for that post-event function. So I'm sure it's going to be an amazing event for the networking space too. Yeah.
Yeah, so for anyone who's interested in that, if you head to cavell.com, if you go on events, find Asia Pacific. As I said, if you're going to be in the region, if you're listening to this down under, or you've got teams that might be interested in attending in Sydney on the 24th of February, then find it there. I should say the other thing, Trent, that you and I have been working on in the background, as you said, we've conducted lots of research interviews with key providers in the region, from Microsoft to local providers, and also our colleague Finbar's been conducting contact centre interviews with some contact centre providers across Southeast Asia, which have really yielded some interesting findings. So one of the things that we'll be publishing is a research report looking primarily at Australia and New Zealand, but also, as you said, a sort of international spotlight looking at some of those Southeast Asian markets. So that will also be available to anybody who's interested about the event. And I think one of the things, and you'll have heard this, Trent, from when you were working in Europe and North America, there is a contrast between even Australia and New Zealand, but that creates a growth opportunity. As you said, there's a lot of synergies maybe between North America and the UK and Australia and New Zealand, for an example. So even if it's not a straight springboard into Southeast Asia, it makes sense in terms of actually it's an untapped market of several million users as well in terms of that growth potential.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we had some really good data points about how fast the APAC, including ANZ, is obviously growing compared to North America, and Europe. So it is a fast-growing space down here, and a lot of opportunities, like you mentioned there. We've actually got a big turnout this year as well. We've actually increased in numbers in terms of bums on seats, so it's going to be a lot busier this year as well, which will be quite exciting. Some familiar faces, a lot of new faces too. So I just know it's going to be a cracker of an event. I'm really looking forward to it. 2 weeks to go, so it's not long before we're going to be in there getting all the gossip. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, well, I'm really excited to come down. It'd be a pleasure to be down under the first time, and I know everyone that I spoke to attended the event last year found it really valuable, so I'm really looking forward to it. As I said, for anyone who's interested in attending, probably the easiest thing to do, head to cavell.com, find the events page, look at APAC. If you want any more details, you can find both myself and Trent on LinkedIn, for example, and we can provide you with some more information. There are still some tickets left, so if anyone's interested, please do take a look at that. And as we said, that's in Sydney, and I understand Australia's a pretty big place, Trent. So if you're not necessarily in Sydney, that is, you have to get there as a starting point. As a Brit who can basically drive anywhere within 2 hours, that is a bit of a culture shock.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, a lot of those. Even for the guys down in Melbourne, they're kind of like, well, it's still a little couple of hour flight, but no, it's well worth it anyway. I know we've got a few guys coming over from New Zealand as well, so a good more of an international contingent this time. Yeah.
Sounds great, and well done for all of the organisation. It sounds like it's going to be a really great event. So final thing, as I said, anyone who wants to know, head to cavell.com, look for events. But for now, Trent, thanks for coming on, and next time I see you in person, we'll be in Sydney, so looking forward to that.
Looking forward to seeing you there too, Patrick. See you.